Karasira aimable ntacagize itangiriro cyangwa se iherezo gusa ntawe uzagukumbura. Amin amin aleluya. Shitani shitani we, shitani shitani we, ntawe uzagukumbura. Wigeze intama kandi urekerura, ntawe uzagukumbura, ntawe uzagukumbura. Witwaje igipindi ushitura benshi, utangira shuguri. Karasira aimable ntacagize itangiriro cyangwa se iherezo gusa ntawe uzagukumbura. Amin amin aleluya. Shitani shitani we, shitani shitani we, ntawe uzagukumbura. Wigeze intama kandi urekerura, ntawe uzagukumbura, ntawe uzagukumbura. Witwaje igipindi ushitura benshi, utangira shuguri, utangiye ubukinduzi. Tumenye uriwe, wibagirwa bagufashije, utubibamo munyangire. Shitani shitani we, shitani shitani we, ntawe uzagukumbura. Wigeze intama kandi urekerura, ntawe uzagukumbura, ntawe uzagukumbura. Watangije akandoyi, utangiza agafuni, utugira imfubyi, utugira abapfakazi. Ukoresha igitugu, utubiba mu bwoba, ucecekesha rubanda. Shitani shitani we, shitani shitani we, ntawe uzagukumbura. Wigeze intama kandi urekerura, ntawe uzagukumbura, ntawe uzagukumbura. Watunyaze gakondo uhanika imisoro, bamwe basenyera abandi urabafunga. Ukoresha twatuzi wongera ubushomeri, wimakaza ishimutwa. Shitani shitani we, shitani shitani we, ntawe uzagukumbura. Wigeze intama kandi urekerura, ntawe uzagukumbura, ntawe uzagukumbura.
Bonsoir à tous. Kambaramutse mwese abakurikiranye radio Urumuri kuri tariki ya 21 ukwezi kwa 9 umwaka w'ibihumbi 2021. Reka rero mbaramutse mbifuriza umugoroba mwiza, bifuriza guhorana n'Imana. Turi ku isaha y'isa 2:32 ku isaha yo muri Uganda, ni saa 1:32 ku isaha y'i Buruseli mu Bubiligi, ku cyicaro gikuru cya radio Urumuri. Nkuko rero musanzwe mubizi, ku munsi wa kabiri akaba programu dutangirana nazo ziba ari programme z'igifaransa. Nubwo uyu munsi bihindutse gatoya, ariko nubundi ngiye kwakira abashitsi bacu umuryango wa Paul Rusesabagina, ndetse n'abanyamakuru batandukanye, ndetse n'abacamanza cyangwa se abavoka babo. kuri uyu mugoroba rero radiyo urumuri ikaba igiye gutangira namwe muri porogaramu z'igifaransa n'icyongereza kugira ngo dushobore kumva icyo umuryango wa Rusesabagina wavuze inyuma y'ibyo bibazo. Banyarwanda banyarwandakazi mudukurikiranye mwese, nkaba ngira ngo mudufashe kugira ngo mukurikirane ibi biganiro mu rurimi rw'igifaransa ndetse n'icyongereza. Ikindi kandi tukaba turi buze gukomeza ibiganiro byacu kuri uyu mugoroba. Ntimuze kugira ubwoba kubera ko uyu mugoroba hano iwacu hari ubukonje buteye ubwoba, ni nayo mpamvu mubona bitoroshye. Umuyaga ni mwinshi, imvura yaguye ni nyinshi, ariko turizera ko turi buze kugendana. Ngewe rero ndi Ben Mugisha muri studio ya 5 ya Radio Urumuri hano mu mujyi wa Kampala muri Uganda. Reka rero uyu mwanya muharire abari muri press conference Brussels mu Bubiligi. Karibu and bienvenue, you are welcome.
Thank you very much for joining us here in Brussels and on Zoom to talk about the trial of Paul Rusesabagina. We know that if you are here, you already know about Paul's story. So we won't focus on the past, we'll focus on the present and the future. The family will speak. There will be some comments from the attorneys, and then we're going to try to keep our portion short to open it up for questions from the media. At the end of the questions on the media, from the media, there is a Q&A function at the bottom of your screen for everyone that's watching on Zoom. Put your questions in the Q&A function and we will answer them in the order in which they are received. If the questions are directed to a specific individual, you can make a note of that in the Q&A function also. I'm going to now introduce Professor Brian Endless to get us started for the morning. Brian.
Thank you, Kitty. Good morning, everyone, and thank you very much for joining us. Yesterday was an extremely difficult day for the Rusesabagina family as their father was convicted on 8 of 9 charges and now faces 25 years in prison, which is effectively a life sentence for someone his age. As Kitty mentioned, we're going to have some brief statements from the family, and then we will turn to the legal team and open this up for questions. To begin, I'd like to introduce Paul's oldest son, Roger Rusesabagina, to give the family's official statement on their father's verdict. Roger?
Oh, hi, Brian. Thank you. And good morning, everyone. I'm just going to read a brief family statement. So our husband and father, Paul Rusesabagina, was kidnapped, tortured, and held in solitary confinement. He was forced to undergo a short trial this past year. We knew from the day he was kidnapped that the verdict will be guilty on some of or all of the false charges. We are happy that the charade of the trial is ending. Paul Rusesabagina is a humanitarian who crusades for the human rights and liberties of the Rwandan people. He has been a critic of every Rwandan regime when they have abused human rights. He has criticized Paul Kagame's human rights abuses for nearly 2 decades. Kagame made it clear over that time that one of his main goals was to silence our father. He is in a dictator's clutches. They have finished this sham trial by finding him guilty today, of yesterday. We have told the world over and over that there is no fair trial process in Rwanda, and the past months have shown that. There is no independent judiciary, and there will be no justice for our father. All we can do now is make this clear to everyone. A dictator will be jailing a humanitarian this week. If the international community does not step in, he will probably be in jail for the rest of his life.
Roger, thank you. Thank you very much for that. We'll now move to Paul's wife, Tatiana Rusesabagina. Tatiana?
Thank you, Brian. Avant tout, bonjour tout le monde. Avant tout, je remercie tout le monde qui nous a aidés et qui continue à nous aider pour la libération de mon mari. Aujourd'hui, ça fait presque 13 mois que le père de mes enfants a été kidnappé, torturé et détenu illégalement par un homme qui l'a traqué et qui rêvait toujours de le tuer depuis des années. Maintenant, Paul, mon cher époux, est incarcéré derrière les barreaux de la prison de Mageragere au Rwanda. C'est certain que Kagame ne va pas le relâcher par sa volonté. La santé de mon mari me fait terriblement peur. Il est survivant de cancer et il vient de rater 2 contrôles de son médecin spécialiste. Depuis qu'il est en prison, il est toujours malade, toujours avec des vertiges, et sa santé se dégrade de jour en jour. Il a une hypertension qui peut lui provoquer une hémorragie cérébrale et donc il peut mourir subitement ou être handicapé pour le reste de sa vie. C'est pourquoi je profite de cette occasion pour demander à tous les pays du monde, et spécialement la Belgique et les États-Unis, de rassembler tous les moyens le plus vite possible pour ramener mon mari à la maison. Je vous en remercie profondément. Enfin, je remercie toutes les personnes des communautés religieuses qui prient pour la libération de mon mari. Que Dieu vous bénisse.
Thank you very much, Tatiana. We'd like to turn for a moment. We have Cecile here to translate for us. And Cecile, if you could please give us a brief translation of what Tatiana had said into English.
Thank you. Yes, from Tatiana. Hello, everyone. First of all, I would like to thank everyone who has helped us and continues to help us for the release of my husband. Today, it's already been a year and almost a month since the father of my children was captured, kidnapped, and tortured by a man who pursued him and always dreamed of killing him for years. Now, Paul, my dear husband, is incarcerated behind the bars of the prison of Mageragere in Rwanda, and it is certain that Kagame will not release him by his will. My husband's health scares me terribly. He is a cancer survivor, and he has just missed 2 checkups by his specialist. Since he has been in prison, he is always sick, always dizzy, and his health is deteriorating overnight. He has high blood pressure, which can cause a brain hemorrhage, and therefore he can die suddenly. That is why I take this opportunity to ask all the countries of the world, and especially Belgium and the United States, to gather all possible means as soon as possible to bring my husband back home. Finally, I thank all the people of the religious communities who are praying for the release of my husband. May God bless you.
Thank you very much. We will now turn to Paul's oldest daughter, Lise, also in the press conference room.
De hebben er vandaag in Nederland gemaakt door hem schuldig te verklaren. We hebben aan Hans de wereld laten weten dat dit geen waardig proces was in Rwanda en de laatste maanden hebben dit aangetoond. Er is geen onafhankelijk rechtspraak en er zal nooit gerechtigheid zijn voor onze vader. Het enige wat we nu nog kunnen doen, is klaar en duidelijk zeggen aan de hele wereld: een dictator zette deze week een humanist in de gevangenis. Als de internationale gemeenschap niet reageert, zal het de rest van zijn leven in de gevangenis verblijven. Un peu de mots, la famille déclare que on savait depuis le départ que notre père serait coupable,
qu'ils allaient l'incriminer faussement. Et on demande à la communauté internationale de faire quelque chose avant qu'il ne soit trop tard, car ils ont emprisonné un homme innocent, un homme humanitaire.
Thank you, Lise. Cecile, if we could have a translation into English, please.
Yes, so she said that the family said that they knew from the beginning that their father would be found guilty. And so they asked the international community to do something now before it's too late.
Thank you very much. We will now turn to some brief statements from our lawyers. Again, I'd like to remind all the panelists to please take frequent breaks if you're going to go on for more than 30 seconds or so, and we'll ask Cecile to translate inside of the breaks. We're going to begin with Peter Coharis, who is our counsel based out of Washington, D.C. Peter, thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much, and thank you everyone for attending. I don't want to make light at all of the seriousness of and the challenges that we're facing. Whenever you have a client that has been found guilty of so many serious allegations and has been sentenced to, as Brian and others have observed, what is tantamount to a life sentence, this is a very difficult position to find oneself in. But I am very optimistic today. I will even go so far as to say I am happy today, and let me explain very briefly why. For translation, Cecile?
Yes. Donc, Peter vous remercie à tous d'être ici présents et de vous être rejoints à cette conférence de presse. Il ne veut pas minimiser ce qui est en train de se passer. C'est un défi très sérieux dont ils font face aujourd'hui. Les allégations sont très graves et il est très difficile de se retrouver dans cette situation face à une condamnation et une telle condamnation. Mais aujourd'hui, il est néanmoins très optimiste et il dirait même qu'il est très content d'être dans cette situation.
For a year now, we've not had any ability, the international lawyers, my fellow colleagues on this panel, to communicate directly with Paul. And in many ways, it's been extremely difficult or impossible to communicate even indirectly. There's no attorney-client privilege. There's been no fair trial. We've not been able to participate because the court has refused to allow us to do so, even though it's extremely common in these kinds of proceedings for outside counsel to provide some assistance. But now we can provide assistance. Now we have many people providing assistance. And ironically, whether it's some of President Kagame's and Rwanda's harshest critics or strongest friends, they will be telling the Rwandan government what the United States government has already begun to tell them, I'm sure, and the Belgian government has already begun telling them, I'm sure, and what the European Parliament has already told them, and what the Belgian Parliament has told them, and what the US Congress has told them.